Thanks to our friends at The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. Visit fool.com/ASYM for the top 10 stocks to buy right now. I think Spotify continues to be one of the most attractive growth stocks in the technology space today. And there's reason behind that strategically. And we're starting to see momentum in where we would expect to see growth for Spotify over the next 5 to 10 years. And that's particularly in advertising and in podcasts. So that's what I want to go through today is exactly what investors are getting, what kind of growth we're seeing, and where we should expect to see growth in the future. My name is Travis Hoyam. Thanks for watching Asymmetric Investing. Please subscribe here on YouTube for all my content. And I want to thank this video sponsor, The Motley Fool. You can check out fool.com/ASYM and get their top 10 stocks to buy right now. So check that out. When it comes to Spotify, I want to start with the company's growth trajectory because recent results really show an interesting story. This is second quarter 2023 results, and I want to highlight a couple of things. One, if you're an investor in Spotify, what you're looking is for growth in users and the amount of time they're on the app. Now, they don't give detailed information about things like how many songs people are listening to or how many hours they're listening to podcasts, but we do get user information. And so the total monthly active users in the most recent quarter grew 27% year over year. That is just an astounding rate. There are now over 500 million people listening to Spotify on a monthly basis. Even on a quarter over quarter basis, that growth was 7%. Now, that did not translate to 27% growth in premium subscribers. That was 17% growth and 5% growth on a quarterly basis. But the way to think about this is those are going to be ad-supported users, and it's going to be the top of the funnel for the premium business. So that's why you see here the ad-supported monthly active users were up 34% and 8% quarter over quarter. That's why all those numbers make sense. From a financial perspective, the premium growth was only 11%. That's partly because a lot of the areas where Spotify is growing are a little bit lower costs. They're developing countries. So that's why you're not going to have the same premium revenue growth. And an ad-supported growth was 12%. So 12% despite 34% increase in ad-supported monthly active users. That's something that kind of raises a red flag to me because Spotify has not been great at turning its ad business into a profit center. But that may be changing, and there are a few reasons for that. The two things that I'm going to watch for in the future with that ad-supported business, particularly with podcasts, is I have been noticing more and more lately local advertising in Spotify, in the Spotify app. The reason that's important is that's the way you would expect Spotify to be doing. They have spent the last few years really advancing their ad tech platform. And what you need to do is you need to build a platform that allows advertisers to both put an advertisement in the system and then choose which listeners are going to be listening, how they're going to convert. They want to know that they're getting a return on the investment for that advertisement. So for a very long time, you would have strange things with Spotify, like an owned podcast, like the Bill Simmons podcast. They would go to an ad break and then there'd just be no ad there. So they were clearly having problems getting ads into the system. That has changed recently to play a lot more local ads. So Spotify knows where you are when you're listening. They also know what your listening history is. Maybe they have some other information like demographic information. And so they can target an ad the same way that a company like Facebook would. And so that should be a pretty targeted ad, but now in audio form. So what I'm looking for over the next few quarters is, are we starting to see more momentum on that ad revenue side? Because I think from a user experience standpoint, we're starting to see that change. So now we would expect to see that change come from a financial perspective. The other thing that I want to note is that their biggest competitor is Apple, and Apple doesn't really seem to care about the podcast business. And that's really where Spotify is going to see its growth. And that I think is really notable because if you're a creator, that makes you more likely to put your podcast on Spotify, allow them to put advertisements in, whether it's on Spotify or whether they're inserted before they go to iTunes. Spotify is doing that work and making you that money. And so that makes them a preferred partner from the creation side. That's where you start to get the platform benefits as a company like Spotify, because you become a preferred creator for podcasters. Now you become a preferred partner for advertisers. And you obviously have that huge growth in users. So you get all three of those things together, and that's where you start to generate a lot of value. The next thing that I want to add is the advancements in artificial intelligence. And Spotify may not seem like an AI company, but what the company is doing is really interesting and I think going to be ultimately very effective. They have shown recently that artificial intelligence is being used to translate podcasts almost immediately into different languages. Lex Friedberg showed off a demo of this recently on Twitter, and Spotify would basically just translate his podcast into dozens of different languages that could be then consumed in local markets. The other thing that we know is coming from Spotify is artificially created advertisements. So now you can create a voice through artificial intelligence. Let's take Bill Simmons again as an example, because he's actually the one that talked about this. They can simulate his voice, and now an advertiser, let's say you're in your local market, can create an ad, put that text into the ad platform, and now the output as a user is going to be Bill Simmons reading that local ad to you with an AI generated voice. So these are real use cases for artificial intelligence that not only make the user experience better by translating podcasts into different languages, but also make the advertising experience better because you're going to get local advertisements potentially by very big name characters. So you add all of this up, and I think Spotify is improving its place as a platform for music and podcasts, audio in general. They're improving the user experience, they're improving the advertising experience. And so now the next step for them from a stock standpoint is they have to show that that's generating more revenue and they're able to hold their costs in line. Those operating costs have kind of gotten out of control the last few years. But I think if they do those things, the technology is moving in the right direction. The users are moving in the right direction. Now the finances need to follow. And if that happens, this could absolutely be a home run stock. But what do you think about Spotify right now? Leave your comments in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe to Asymmetric Investing. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you here next time.